What is going on, all of you video game completionists out there in the world? I am Mega Am, so thank you for watching this YouTube video. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you stopping by. Today I wanted to talk about something that, because of my recent time with Kirby Air Riders, has been on my mind, and that is the idea of unlockables in video games. And personally, as someone who likes kind of that idea of like a checklist and ticking it off in my brain, I love unlockables. I love all sorts of unlockables. I feel like a lot of games in modern times, it's tough because like to add accessibility, they've made, especially like, for example, like a fighting game has a lot of the characters unlocked from the start. Like most of them, maybe a couple secret characters or something are locked, or like racing games, or like even a game like Vampire Survivors. This game doesn't do it. This game loves unlockables. This is one of my examples, and I'm afraid of making it an example because I'm worried I'm going to get re-addicted. But it's one of those things that, like, I don't know, there's almost a sense of progression and reward that just feels so good to me when you're constantly unlocking things. And Vampire Survivors is a perfect example of that, because if we go in here, we can look at the like all the power-ups and unlocks, here we go, that I have. The way Vampire Survivors works is it just has this like crazy level of just like this whole list that they keep adding to, by the way, with more DLC that they add in this game. If you pay for the DLC, that is, but some of it's free, and a lot of it that is paid is like $2. I just love that they have this whole list, and like most of these unlocks will give you certain stuff like characters that you can then buy, items within levels themselves, and like a lot of actual mechanics that increase the gameplay further. So on the one hand, it's like, yes, it limits accessibility for sure, and like I don't know what the right way to balance it is, because some of us do like unlocking stuff, but a lot of people don't, and they like to have a lot of the content up in front. But it's also, you know what I mean, it's like it's nice to have that sense of progression. And like a lot of games that have these unlockables straight up like from the start, like they still have sense of progression in other ways, and sometimes the core of the game is just playing it. For example, a recent example I can think of is Sonic Racing Crossworlds, right? Just because I recorded a video on that just earlier. That game doesn't really have unlockable. It kind of has unlockable stages. You have to play some of the Grand Prix, but like the characters are all unlocked from the start. They're DLC that adds more characters later, but they're not like unlockable. You just have them if you pay, or the free ones you get. Where I kind of like having the option to unlock things. So like here, for example, I mean, like you can see all the Castlevania characters I have because I love those. I got to set up the free. Do I have the free? What was it, Saga DLC on here? But it's like just the sense of unlocking everything in here, getting all these different characters, like in Vampire Survivors, for example. I think this is a great example of an unlockable, and like slowly moving through the stages here, I think is like, I don't know, I just find that really, really cool. Like that sense of progression. It's like ever since I was a kid has always just kind of like tickled my brain a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I think back to my earliest gaming memories too, with like, oh, I'm trying to think. Like Sonic Adventure, right? Yeah, you had to play through Sonic's story and meet up with the characters and unlock their stories as you go. Which, yeah, for sure, some people could definitely find to be tedious, for sure. Like, I'm not going to say, like, unlocking doesn't take time, because of course it does, but it really depends on what kind of gamer you are and how much you appreciate those. You know, for me, I like that idea of a sense of progression, and I'm slowly adding more and more to the game, whereas some people prefer having that content all up front without having to, do anything too different. And that, like, I mean, it's like the idea of locking a bunch of gameplay behind progression. It's like, are you a fan of that or are you not? Because a lot of people aren't, and that's totally fair. A lot of people are just not a fan of that, and that is 100% fair. But it's also, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. For me, I just growing up playing like some of those like Sonic games, the Lego games, like Lego Star Wars had a lot of different unlockables. We need the garlic, of course. And so that idea of like a sense of progression, like doing that, it was always kind of like natural to me, and always was kind of like, ooh, like I unlocked this, now I can move on in the game and do more of this, and then eventually having an ending, if you will, depending on the kind of game. Like a Sonic game, yeah, there's an ending, there's a final boss, final story. You go through that and unlock that way as you progress through the game. But some people might prefer to have some of that stuff unlocked from the start, you know? And I think especially with like fighting games and racing games, any games where you have, you know, like a significant amount of content, whether it's like playable characters or levels or like other elements of gameplay, like a racing game as vehicles, or like a fighting game might have certain items, you know, that people probably want to have unlocked from the start. And like, I get that. And I'm trying to think of if there is a way to balance it where, I don't, maybe just have it be a toggle? I don't know. Cause like, obviously like you want games to be approachable, right? And so like, if people don't want to go through, if they don't want to go through the pain of like playing a game and like unlocking stuff, like some people just don't prefer that, and I am a firm believer in that, in accessibility, and that game should be played however players would like to play them, you know. And sometimes just developers' intent, that's a whole other video idea, but it's one of those things that's like, yeah, how do you balance that? Maybe you have a toggle, like an optional toggle, if you go in the settings, that's like unlock all characters. You know, back like when we used to have cheat codes. Remember cheat codes? I feel like cheat codes were like the preliminary to like accessibility. But also, cheat codes back in the day could unlock you a bunch of stuff. You know, I think back to like the Tony Hawk games. You could unlock all the characters, unlock all the levels, unlock all the skateboards, stuff like that. Where you would enter, they were essentially thought of as cheats, whereas nowadays you would think of those as unlocks or just like options you provide people for accessibility reasons. And so maybe there's a way to implement that. But like, for someone like me, I'm a very hardcore gamer, as professional gamer, some might say. I wouldn't say that. But it's like, I play a lot of different games, and I've played a lot of games throughout my entire life. And so it's one of those things that's like, for me, I love the progression of unlocking characters, levels, items. In this game's case, evolutions. I loved filling out the grimoire. In case you want to figure this out for yourself, if you haven't played Vampire Survivors yet. First of all, what are you doing? Go play it. But also, I'm sorry in advance, you're gonna get addicted. But also, yeah, go check it out and unlock some of that stuff. But it's one of those things that's like so satisfying to me. Same thing with Ball Pit, which I played recently. Just go through and like experiment and unlock different combinations and figure that out on my end. And it feels like I'm progressing further and further in the game. Ball Pit is actually a great example. I didn't even think about that, for a greater sense of progression in that regard too, with all the unlockable stuff you get, like levels and characters and all of that. But really what made me want to do this video before I play too much Vampire Survivors and get addicted, which is already setting in and I could feel it, what really made me want to do this video is the games made by Sakurai and his team. Because my first foray into quote-unquote fighting games, you can call it a party game, whatever, was Smash Brothers, specifically Brawl on the Wii. And that game, you had the Subspace Emissary, which was a great, relatively quick way. It was a fun story mode, first of all, but also it was a great way to unlock a bunch of the characters in that game. Because Smash Brothers games, every single one of them, from what I can remember, you have to unlock a lot of the characters, you know? Like, I think since the original, right? Definitely correct me if I'm wrong about that, but you have to unlock all of the characters. And honestly, I find that fun. Now, the way some of the Smash Brothers games handle it, where they randomly show up, I don't love that. But, like, I think to, like, Smash Ultimate, which had the most unlockable, like, the highest number of unlockable characters out of any of the games, because I think you might have started with, like, the original 8 or something like that, if I remember correctly. Definitely correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but it was a lot. You didn't start off with many characters at all, and you had to slowly unlock them over time. And honestly, I found that really fun and rewarding, because then it's also like, oh, I unlocked this new character, I'm gonna go check out, you know, this new character in this game, and like, I love that. And one thing especially that I think Sakurai's games does really well is the checklist system, which started off, when did that start off? Let me know in the comments below. Was it Kirby Air Ride or was it Melee? I'm pretty sure it was one of those two. I don't think Brawl was the first one to do it. I could be wrong though, definitely correct me if I'm wrong. But the checklist in those games is just, to me, so satisfying. So actually, before I get too much into Vampire Survivors, I am going to switch over to Kirby Air Riders a little bit here. Light spoilers for Kirby Air Riders. I'm going to try to avoid showing off any of the gameplay or like the specific unlockable content, but just to show off the checklist so you can see what they look like and why it's so satisfying to me. So light spoilers for Kirby Air Riders if you're playing this game and you want to avoid any of the checklist content, but it's also new, so I want to showcase this off. But to me, it's like, these games are the pinnacle of unlockables in like character heavy games, I guess is how I would describe them, like fighting games, racing games, party games, I guess, if you want to include like, I don't know, Mario Party or something. The sense of progression here, this is what's keeping me here. And this is why, in my mind, like, this game, in terms of single-player content, has the most single-player content out of any racing game this year. Because the checklists are just crazy, and I absolutely love them. So, final spoiler warning for this. But, like, look at these lists, right? We have 5 checklists here. Now, some people may look at this and be like, this is so daunting. Like, why am I here, right? Why is... Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to unlock all this stuff. There are ways to mitigate some of this. You see the little check mark in the bottom left. That kind of works like if you play the older Smash Brothers games, the hammers, they essentially give you a free unlock, and you can use that to kind of skip a challenge, because these checklists are tied behind challenges, and that's how you unlock stuff. And I love the way the checklists in this game and previous games, like some of the previous Smash Brothers games, and maybe Kirby Air Riders, I don't know, the original on the GameCube, maybe. Unsure about that one, you can let me know in the comments below. What I love about these is that once you unlock a slot here, you can see it's filled in by, like, the image, the color. All of the adjacent blocks are then revealed in terms of what you need to do to unlock them. So here you have to race on the Floria Fields map, win against a level 8 or higher CPU rider. And, like, you know, then you could be like, okay, I'll go do that, and then you can unlock that. And so it's slowly drip feeding you. It's a similar way to what Vampire Survivors was doing, as we saw that list earlier with the different unlocks, but this is a little more subtle. This is a little more like, no, you need to, like, experiment around in order to get these hints as to how to unlock them. And a lot of these I've done on my own, have been, like, you know, random unlocks that I didn't realize they were challenges, but then I unlocked them. It's like, oh, great. Like, that's usually how this starts off. And then you get the surrounding hints, and it just becomes this kind of addicting cycle. At least for me personally. Let me know if you feel this way as well in the comments below. But yeah, so there's 150 checklists for each one of these. So that makes, what is that? 750 unlocks total, or checklist unlocks total in this game. Yeah, this one I've done a lot of. I will not say any more about what this involves for those of you playing through this game. And I got a bunch of online ones too. I love this artwork. And, like, that's kind of a fun little bonus to unlock the artwork behind here. But, like, I love how this is handled. And, like, this unlocks characters. This unlocks racetracks in the game. It unlocks alternate costumes, vehicles, decals for your... to customize your vehicle. You can customize your license, which is essentially your, like, gamer ID in this game. And so it's like, personally, I love this because I'm, like, constantly unlocking it, and also it motivates me to try out the entirety of the game. So for a lot of people, this might be daunting. They might be like, I want just all these unlocks from the start, because you only start off with, I think, what, Kirby, DDD, Meta Knight, and maybe Bandana Waddle Dee or regular Waddle Dee in this game. Like, you don't start off with many characters or vehicles at all. You start off with very minimal, but you unlock them pretty quickly over time, assuming you just keep playing and playing the game. But the checklist is a really fun way to kind of aggregate all of that, and I don't know, personally, I find that it actually makes it pretty fun to go through and motivate me to actually do more of the game. And what's really cool about this game specifically, I think this is new for Sakurai and his team's games, you see that little bottom right attempt button. What essentially you can do is, if I click attempt, it'll just set it up for me immediately. So I could go in here, and you see the challenge at the bottom, and it'll set up the specific challenge for me, assuming it's like a single player one. I think any of the online stuff you can't do this for, which makes sense. But here it just pretty much sets up the entire challenge for you, ready to go right there. And I love that. It's just such a, I don't know, it's a more accessible way to unlock stuff. I mean, there's still a challenge of actually completing the objective and unlocking it, which is a barrier for a lot of people. And that's why, honestly, if there's like an optional toggle to unlock some of the stuff, kind of like what cheat codes used to do in older games, like I mentioned earlier, I think that would be pretty neat. But, like, personally, I find this so rewarding. I find this sense of progression so rewarding in games, to have this, like, constant unlock. And what's different about this, for me at least, is some games, I think back to, like, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy implemented it this way. I don't know about other games where they have the achievement list. To me, that's not the same, because I don't know what the unlocks are from those, but I think they're just optional. And, like, to me, it's like, if you have a reward, a meaningful reward, like a character, like a vehicle, like a level, tied, or even music. I love unlocking music in this game. Having that tied behind these objectives, to me, makes me want to experience the whole game and motivate me to actually explore the entirety of the game and try to do that. Some of the decals, I don't know if I'm going to do all the objectives in this game, but like some of the decals I might skip out on. But like the characters, the races, the vehicles, like I really want to get all of those, and to like, in a way, it motivates me to experience more of the game. And honestly, it kind of hits off that dopamine in the brain a little bit. I don't know. Let me know, as I wrap up this video, let me know how you feel about Unlockables in the comments below, because I can see both sides of it. You know, this isn't, oh, one way is right, one way's wrong. It's a preference. For me, I actually like having these Unlockables, and this is why I'm planning on sticking with Kirby Air Riders for a lot longer this year, is to really get through all these Unlockables here. You know, but on the flip side, you don't have much stuff up front. And some people, but like, to me, it's like if some people don't want to unlock stuff, maybe they won't like the game overall. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel, especially when it comes to like racing games, fighting games, those sort of games? Do you like having all the content available to you from the start without having to unlock anything? Do you like going through and unlocking things like I do? Like, let me know how you feel about all the Unlockables like this in the comments below. Otherwise, that's going to do for this video, so I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, if you're playing Kirby Air Riders, enjoy it. If you're not, go play Vampire Survivors. Otherwise, keep on gaming.